want to tell you about a little girl. This little girl grew up in Toledo, Ohio in the 80s and 90s, playing with G.I. Joe dolls, trolls, and pining after the New Kids on the Block. She loved stories and being read to. She would beg her mom to read to her for hours on end. She could listen to long stories with few pictures, unlike other kids her age. But traditional learning was a challenge. Math, grammar, spelling were monumental mountains for her to leap. Rote memorization, forget about it. In the 5th grade, her teacher divided the class into 2 reading groups: the smart kids and the dumb kids. Oh, no, that's not what she called it, but everyone knew that's what it was. To make matters worse, she was sent out to the math and the grammar van to bring her comprehension up, pulled out of class. Whether it helped or not is debatable, but it did succeed in flagging her as learning disabled to the other kids in her class, and succeeded in further othering her. And let's not even talk about her actual grades. Her parents thought she wasn't applying herself enough, and she figured her teachers felt the same way too. Nevertheless, English was her favorite subject, and she even surprised herself by winning a poetry contest in the 5th grade by writing about her special place. She started to learn that if she could show her work, it would make up for the fact that she wasn't smart in the way that the other kids were smart. And this little girl started seeking the praise that said, she sure is a hard worker. And she was determined to prove her worth by how hard she can work and being a good girl. This would be a bad habit that would take her decades to unlearn. She knew her grades weren't good enough. She knew she wasn't smart in the way other kids were smart. But she worked hard, and she eventually landed herself at a good but expensive private college. Because she was mostly paying for college herself, she overloaded her classes to graduate in 3 years and worked close to full-time hours at the grocery store across the street from her school, where I met her. She got by in college, but it wasn't easy. She needed more time to devote to her studies, but work took up the time that she should have been studying. Her senior year, during a capstone class, she was turning in papers that she had barely reread, let alone proofread. And her professor told her, scribbled in cursive, that her writing wasn't college level. Like a match that burns just too close to the skin, every time she thinks about that, she burns with shame. And while there might have been some truth to those comments, it would take her about 8 years for her self-confidence to recover. Think back to your childhood. What seeds took root way back then that still grow poisonous fruit today? Who validated those beliefs? Do you still believe them today? The stories you're telling yourself now will impact your tomorrow and your children's tomorrows and the tomorrows of each and every single person you encounter. So if it's not clear yet, that little girl was me. And eventually that little girl became an adult who was still trying to validate her self-worth by how hard she could work for the sake of hard work in a job she never should have been in. But baby step by baby step, the woman that girl became started letting go, practicing letting go of trying to be the good girl and the perfect girl so that she could say that she was a woman who knew her worth was intrinsic and had nothing to do with how hard she worked or how good she was. This woman decided that she would measure her self-worth by the velocity in with which she would go after her dreams. This woman decided that she would measure her self-worth by how much grace, compassion, and love she could bring to the table. This woman decided that she would measure her self-worth by how often she went after the things that lit her up from the inside out. And with those measuring sticks in place, she eventually got the courage to write a book. And with the help of her village, because it takes a village, eventually, Little Failures was birthed into the world. I need you to know that if there is a dream in your heart, it is worth breaking through your fear of failure to go after. If there is a dream in your heart, it is worth breaking through your perfectionism to go after. If there is a dream in your heart, it is worth being real and vulnerable to achieve it. If there is a dream in your heart, it is worth failing towards. And ultimately, I think that you will find, like I found, that when you go after the really important dreams, the ones that scare the living shit out of you, like writing this book scared the living shit out of me, you rarely end up where you thought you would. Writing this book meant slaying the memories of being the first to sit down in class spelling bees. Slaying the memories of stumbling over and mispronouncing words when called on to read in class. Slaying the memories of being assigned to the dumb reading group, the math vans, the bad grades, and being told my writing wasn't college level. If I can slay my dragons, every single one of you in this room can slay your dragons too. I promise you can do it. As a coach, it is my greatest honor to walk with my clients as they slay their dragons that, like mine, took root way back in childhood. Together we face them and we reframe them so that my clients don't have to say that they'll go after the relationship, the job, the business, the book, the hobby someday. It is so cliche, right? Like someday, not a day on the calendar, but it's true. Someday is not a day on the calendar. And if you wait, you might miss it. Life is fragile. Don't stay stuck. I thought that writing this book was about writing a book for my business, but that was only the smallest part of this journey. I know you know. This first book, and there will be more, was really about healing my inner child. It was about proving to myself that I was worthy, that my dreams were worthy. And look where it's brought me. And look where my dream has brought each and every single one of you. You're here. You're here. Not only did I write a book that sold more in the pre-sale campaign than most books sell in their entire first year. Yeah. I was also invited to start a publishing company. And my mission to elevate emerging voices and to help people uncover and unearth their own inner wisdom is being amplified in ways I never thought possible. Never thought it was possible. If I can do this, you can do this too. But you have to be willing to try, to fail, to stumble, to fall, to get back up and try again and again and again. But you don't have to do it alone, because together we rise. Thank you.